Hello guys, this is Dr. Possibility from Excel Academy. Kindly make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure that you register with Excel Academy. Let's quickly look at quiz 2 preparation part 1. So I have been given this question whereby it is saying if sine alpha is equal to 1 over 5 and alpha is a second quadrant angle, find cot alpha and also find cos 2 alpha. So one thing we need to understand that before we do anything, we need to pick up the understanding of this part. So what we can do is just by simply drawing the Cartesian plane. Let's say we have the Cartesian plane there, and then from this Cartesian plane we have been told that this angle is in the second quadrant, so we can say this angle can be that angle and this angle is just alpha. And then one thing we have been told is that sine alpha is equal to 1 over 2. We know that sine is equal to opposite over what? Hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse. So we can simply sketch a right angle triangle from the second quadrant, and we know that this is 90 degrees. So if this angle is alpha, that means that the opposite is this side, and this, in this case, the opposite is simply 1. So this side is simply what? 1. And then over hypotenuse, we know it is 5, so we can simply check out to be that. So this is the interpretation of that part. So after we interpret that part, the next thing is for us to look for this part due to this other question which need cos. Including this same question, it need cos. So we know that this is adjacent and we don't know the value of adjacent, so we need to look for adjacent. So we know that adjacent is simply equal to the square root of hypotenuse squared minus opposite squared. So we can simply say adjacent is equal to the square root of hypotenuse squared is 5 squared minus 1 squared. So the adjacent value will simply be equal to square root. We know 5 squared is 25 minus 1, which is just 24. Sorry, 24. So this 24 can be worked on. This 24 can be worked on using the surds, such that we can say adjacent is simply equal to square root 24, and then we know that we can simply say adjacent is simply equal to 4 times 6, 4 times 6, and then there adjacent can simply be equal to square root 4 dot square root 6 according to SAT. So the adjacent will simply be equal to 2 square root 6. So the adjacent in this case is just 2 square root 6. So after you do this analysis, then this simply means that you can move on and work out these questions because you now have all the sides. So let me quickly look at the first one. The first one is cot alpha. So we know that cos alpha is equal to cos alpha over sine alpha is equal to cos alpha over sine alpha. Now, for us to find the value, we can simply say what is cos alpha. So let's quickly look at cos alpha. So cos alpha is just adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent over hypotenuse. And then in this case, the adjacent is 2 square root 6. What about sine alpha? So sine alpha is simply equal to opposite over what? Opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse. So here I have not put the hypotenuse, which is 5 there. So opposite over hypotenuse, this is 1 over 5 from there. So the opposite is 1 and then hypotenuse is 5. And then for this one, the value of the adjacent is 2 square root 6 and then the hypotenuse is 5. So with knowing this or having these values, we can simply look at the values of cot alpha. But one thing that you need to understand is you need to know that cos is negative in this quadrant. Cos is negative in this quadrant. That simply means that you need to add a negative in front of that value. So with this being done, we can simply work on cot alpha, which we know cot alpha will simply be equal to cos alpha over sin alpha. So we can say negative 2 square root 6 over 5 divided by 1 over 5. Okay, remember this line is just telling you to divide. So with that being done, we can simply say cot alpha is simply equal to negative square root 6 negative 2 square root 6 over 5, and then this sign will change to multiplication, and then this will swap, whereby that will be 5 there and then 1 down as our denominator. So after we do that, we can simply now cancel out this one and also that one. So when we cancel out, we'll say cot alpha is simply equal to negative square root 2 negative square root 2 negative 2 square root 6, because when you multiply this by 1, which is here, it's just going to give you negative 2 square root 6. Therefore cot alpha is simply equal to negative 2 square root 6. So that's our answer. So let's quickly move on and look at the next guy, which is cos 2 alpha. So how can you solve cos 2 alpha? Okay, let's quickly look at this question. So if we look at this question, whereby we have B, and B is saying cos 2 alpha, okay, or it can just be written as cos 2 alpha. So cos 2 alpha can be derived from the identity, which is cos 2 alpha is simply equal to cos squared alpha minus sin squared alpha. Cos squared alpha minus sin squared alpha. So this is one of the identities which you can use. Remember, this identity is derived from another identity, which is cos alpha plus beta is equal to cos alpha cos beta minus sin alpha sin beta. Okay, so when you replace alpha there, it's going to give you this expression, but I'm not going to go in detail and explain this part because it is already been done in the other tutorial. So with that in mind, we can simply replace. So remember what we found. We found that cos alpha is simply equal to 2 square root 6 over 5, of which cos is negative in that quadrant. And then we know that sin alpha is simply equal to 1 over 5. So in that case, cos 2 alpha is just simply equal to open bracket cos alpha squared minus sine alpha squared, So after doing that, we can simply say cos 2 alpha is equal to, we replace that with where there is cos alpha, so 2 square root 6 over 5, and then squared minus, you say that one, it is 1 over 5, and then squared. So this will give us cos 2 alpha is simply equal to, that squared is just 4.6. 4 times 6 over 25, and then minus 1 over 25. So cos 2 alpha is simply equal to 4 times 6 is just simply 24 over 25, and then minus 1 over 25. So with that being done, we can simply work out those two fractions. So cos 2 alpha is simply equal to, common denominator is just 25, and we know that 25 into 25 is 1 times 24 is 24, and then minus, 25 into 25 is 1, like that. And then this will simply give us 23 over 25. So this is the solution for that particular question. Okay, so with this in mind, we can simply move on and look at the next question, which is solve the following simultaneous equation. All right, so we have been given the first equation, which is 2x minus y is equal to 0.5, and we have been given 3 to the power x is equal to 9 to the power y. So we can simply change these guys. So you know that this 0.5 is the same as 1 over 2. So 2 to the power x minus y is equal to 1 over 2. Then from there we can make the bases to be the same by saying 2x minus y is simply equal to, you know that 1 over x is the same as x to the power negative 1. So in that case, this can just be 2 to the power negative 1. Then we can do this side again. This side can be 3x is equal to, we know 9 can be written as 3 to the power 2, and then y outside. So 3x is simply equal to 3 to the power 2y. Okay, with that in mind, we can simply simplify our work by cancelling the same bases there, and then this will be x minus y is simply equal to negative 1, and this is your equation 1. And then this side, this one and that one goes, we have x is equal to 2y, and this is your equation 2. Then after doing that, one next thing you can now do is just by simply replacing x with 2y in that equation. So when x is replaced by 2y, you're going to have 2y minus y is equal to negative 1. So y is simply negative 1. And then if you get this negative 1 and replace it there, so you're going to have x is equal to 2 multiplied by negative 1, and the x is simply equal to negative 2. So this is the final answer. So guys, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure that you register with Excel Academy as I present to you many more exam questions and more tips on how to go about your quiz 2 and test 2s and also the exams. Thank you very much for joining me. This was Dr. Possibility from Excel Academy.